Before we get into the latest New York Knicks news and rumors, I just had to have a conversation with you. My guy Spike Lee, or I guess my ex-guy Spike Lee, because I don't mess with this. He was at the Brooklyn Nets versus the Boston Celtics playoff game, and he was in Brooklyn gear, and he was up and on the sideline, jumping, cheering around for the Brooklyn Nets. I have a problem with that. So I want to let you know, maybe I'm out of line. Can you be a New York Knick and a Brooklyn Nets fan? I don't think you can. I don't think it's good for yourself, the NBA, or even your baby mama. But let me know. Type Y for yes, or you can go down and type N for no. Welcome into New York Knicks Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green, and in today's show, we're going to touch on the latest between Kyrie Irving and him being a free agent, potentially, and the New York Knicks signing him. And then later on in the video, we're going to touch on Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson, Worldwide West. He was supposedly at Game 1 of Mavs versus Jazz, scouting those two guys. So we'll touch on that. But first, let's touch on Kyrie Irving and everything that's going on with Brooklyn. I mean, I'm pretty pumped, because they're about to get swept by the Boston Celtics. I hate the Brooklyn Nets. I don't think you can be a Nets and a Knicks fan, so I'm hoping that the Nets do get swept. Kyrie and KD, it just simply hasn't worked out in Brooklyn. They're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs this year. They haven't really had all that much playoff success. They were about a fingernail or a toenail of Kevin Durant being behind the three-point line for advancing last year in the Eastern Conference playoffs, but things just haven't worked out between Kyrie and KD. They're two great players. They make a great duo, but at the end of the day, that duo was set to come together to accomplish things in the playoffs, to win NBA Finals, and that has not happened yet. Kyrie, he's got a player option of about $36.5 million entering free agency. I honestly think he declines that and looks for more of a longer and more lucrative deal in free agency. And maybe the Knicks want to go sign Kyrie Irving. They have a hole at point guard. I think this, or maybe I'm just speaking it into existence, that this is the summer the Knicks go out and sign a point guard. So do you want it to be Kyrie Irving? Do you want to see Kyrie in blue and orange? We've done all this talk just a couple of years ago, but here we are once again talking about it. Go down and type sign in the comment section if you want the Knicks to sign him, or if not, if you don't want the Knicks to sign Kyrie Irving, you can go down and type F Kyrie in the comment section. Look, if the Knicks sign Kyrie Irving, we'll be breaking it down on this channel, youtube.com/KnicksTV. We're probably going to be going live, honestly, if the Knicks sign Kyrie Irving. So subscribe and have your notifications turned on, because we're trying to get to 6,000 subscribers here on the channel. And look, we're going to be doing free daily videos on the latest Knicks news and rumors leading up until the NBA draft and the NBA free agency. And I want to do this. If you're already subscribed, go down in the comments and type NYK for our New York Knicks in the comment section. And everybody that does, I'll give you a shout out on the next video. When you look at what Kyrie Irving has done over the last 4 seasons in the NBA, he hasn't really played all that much. 67 games in 2018, 20 games in 2019, 54 games in 2020, and just 29 games this year because the COVID rules and everything that was going on in New York City. When he plays, 27.5 points per game this year, 27 the year prior, 27.5 the year prior, and 24 the year prior to that. When he's on the court, he's one of the best basketball players in the NBA. The thing is, he doesn't always appear or is always on the court because he's got injuries and stuff like that that always pop up through Kyrie Irving's career. He's played okay through the playoffs so far, through the 3 games versus the Boston Celtics. Hasn't been quite as an efficient as a scorer as he is through his NBA career. Look, Kyrie Irving is a walking bucket. Him in the mid-range reminds me of Kobe Bryant. He's able to get to a spot with creative handle and just fall away from the basket and make it look like one of the easiest shots in the NBA. He can finish with the left hand. He can finish with the right hand. But in the playoffs so far, he hasn't been efficient. 33% from beyond the three-point arc, less than 45% from the field, 21.7 points from the field. Kyrie hasn't done enough, in my opinion, to win games for the Nets in the playoffs. And when you talk about Kyrie Irving as a complete total player through his NBA career, what is he outside of the shot versus the Golden State Warriors in the finals during Game 7? He didn't perform up to expectations with the Cleveland Cavaliers before LeBron James got there. It was a disaster with the Boston Celtics, and it hasn't gone to plan with the Brooklyn Nets. He's played with LeBron James, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kevin Durant, and has only one ring to show for it. Maybe I'm just still bitter because he chose the Nets over the Knicks. I'm going to be honest. I am still bitter. It pisses me off. Kyrie Irving, he was produced to play basketball in the Mecca, in Madison Square Garden. To have Mike Breen and Walt Clyde Frazier calling games for Kyrie Irving. I want to hear bang from Mike Breen. I want to hear all the little cool similes and metaphors that Walt Clyde Frazier has for Kyrie Irving wearing blue and orange. So I'm still bitter. Honestly, I can't even lie. I hope the Nets get swept. I hate the Brooklyn Nets. I hate Kevin Durant. I honestly don't even really like Kyrie Irving. I hate KD more than Kyrie, but I'm just not a fan of the Nets. I can't root for them. The New Yorker, the real New Yorker in me, will not let me root for the Brooklyn Nets. So I'm hoping the Boston Celtics, even though I hate the Celtics probably just as much as the Nets, I hope they get swept. So let's speak it into existence. Let's get 1,000 likes on this video, because the more likes we get, the more probable it is the Nets are going to get swept. So if you want to see that happen, if you want to see KD and Kyrie crying on the sideline, going home to vacation in Cabo after a 4-0 sweep, go down and like this video right now. One thing I promise you're also going to like is our proud sportsbook partner of today's show, BetUS. You can bet on the NBA playoffs. You can probably bet on the Nets getting swept, but all you got to do, chatsports.com/bet. Plug in the promo code CHAT125, and they'll match that with a 125% deposit bonus. Chatsports.com/bet, promo code CHAT125, put $100 down, they'll match you with a 125% deposit bonus, so you'll have 225 big ones in your account to bet with. You can lose a little bit of cheddar, but they gave you an extra 125, so get signed up, chatsports.com/bet. Next topic on today's show, Worldwide Wes. He was in Dallas for Game 1 of the Jazz vs. Mavs series, and he was on the sideline. Was he scouting Donovan Mitchell? Was he scouting Jalen Brunson? Two players that the Knicks have been attached to throughout the 2022 NBA season. At the deadline, the Knicks, they were trying to make a move for Jalen Brunson. I think it's pretty newsworthy, and it's known now that the Knicks are going to pursue Jalen Brunson in free agency. And through the past couple of years, the Knicks have been all in on trying to acquire Donovan Mitchell. And Worldwide Wes and Leon Rose, they have ties to Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell, he has ties to New York. It's a known fact that the Knicks are going to do everything they can this summer to make a trade happen for Donovan Mitchell. The thing is, you're most likely only going to get Brunson or Mitchell. So who's the better fit? So let's look at what they both did in 2021. Brunson, he had the best year of his career. He started games in the later half of the season, and that's when the Mavericks really took off. Averaged about 16.5 points per game, almost 5 assists per night, but I like how efficient of a player he is. 50% from the field, 37% from three, and he did it with a lot of attempts per night. There were nights where he was asked to go be a bucket, like in Game 2 of the Western Conference playoffs against the Utah Jazz, where he dropped a 41-piece dinner. But then Donovan Mitchell, we know what he is. He's a certified bucket getter. He would set Madison Square Garden on fire. 25 points per game this season, 5 assists, a little less efficient, 44% from the field and 35 from three. These are two great basketball players, and they would set the city of New York on fire. But if you could only choose one, Brunson or Mitchell, who would it be? Think of everything that it would take. Donovan Mitchell, you're going to have to trade one of the young guys. You're going to have to trade multiple first-round picks. Brunson, you probably only got to do a sign and trade with Mitchell Robinson, maybe a first-round pick, or maybe a young player. So when you answer this question, think of everything that it's going to cost. The cost for Brunson, the cost for Mitchell. Type 13 in the comment section for Jalen Brunson, or go down and type 45 in the comment section for Donovan Mitchell. Factoring everything in, play style, cost, what he's going to do in the New York Knicks, the longevity of their career, I don't think it's a hot take. I honestly might choose Jalen Brunson. I think he's more of a tenacious defender. I think he's more of a leader. I like what he does on the offensive end. He gets his teammates involved, and it's not going to cost as much dollars or assets to go and get Brunson. I mean, what he's done in the playoffs for the Utah Jazz, against the Utah Jazz for the Dallas Mavericks, he's really the only reason they're still in this series, averaging 30 points per night, almost 5 assists, shooting 48% from the field and 40% from downtown on 5.5 three-pointers a night. I mean, the team when Luka Doncic came back in Game 4 didn't look as good. This team, the Dallas Mavericks, they were balling out with Brunson when he was this ISO guard that was creating for everybody else. Now they got to work Luka back in. Not saying Brunson is better than Luka, but I think Brunson makes players better where I question if Luka does that. And honestly, I love the fact that Brunson is an elite defender. He's not afraid to go out and guard Donovan Mitchell on an island. He's not asked to do that because the Mavs have a lot of defenders, but there's been times when he's guarded him and he hasn't backed down. He is a pit bull on the defensive end. He would thrive in a Tom Thibodeau offense and defense. I mean, and when you think about Mitchell versus Brunson, the Mavs are seeking out Donovan Mitchell on defenses. They're going into those pick and rolls, trying to get Mitchell to be the one-on-one defender against guys like Brunson and guys now like Luka. Mitchell, he came into the NBA as a good defender, but that has eroded away through his time with the Utah Jazz. I think I like Brunson a little bit more when you factor in cost and assets that it's going to take up. I 100% will say Donovan Mitchell's a better player. He's probably going to be a better player throughout his NBA career. But do we really want a 6'1" chucker and Donovan Mitchell that's not that efficient and hasn't been able to deliver much playoff success to the Utah Jazz? I've got large concerns about Mitchell, and I think the teardown in Utah may have a little bit to do with him, and he's got to take some of that blame for sure. I appreciate everybody that's made New York Knicks Now a part of your day. Make sure to subscribe and give me a follow on Twitter. I'm trying to get my Twitter followers up. My boss, James Yoder, you can go and yell at him on Twitter. He told me I got to get more followers. I need to get to 1.5 thousand followers on Twitter by the time of NBA free agency. So help me out because I want to keep my job and I want to keep talking New York Knicks basketball. I'll put the link to my Twitter in the comments and description of this video. So click on it. Give me a follow at @MarshallGreen_.